Okay, guys, so today we're going to be doing a reaction video. As you know, I share a lot of content about grants, business funding, how to grow your business, how to scale your business, how to exit your business. Today we are going to watch a video together and I'm going to react to it.
Escalating fight over diversity in business. It involves the Fearless Fund, which is the first venture capital fund built by women of color for women of color. According to the fund, just 0.39% of venture capital funding goes to businesses started by women of color. The Fearless Fund was founded in 2019 to help close that gap by providing funding and support to Black female founders.
And now it's facing a lawsuit by the American Alliance for Equal Rights. That's a group founded by the conservative activist who was behind the effort to end affirmative action in college admissions. Now, this suit alleges that the fund's Fearless Strivers Grant Contest is, quote, their words, a racially discriminatory program that blatantly violates the Civil Rights Act's guarantee of race neutrality because its $20,000 grant prizes are only open to Black women. We are joined now by Fearless Fund co-founder and CEO. Her name is Ariane Simone. This is her first interview since the lawsuit was filed against her company. Good morning to you, Ariane Simone. Good to have you here at the table.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what was your first thought when you heard that you and your partners were being sued?
My initial thought, I didn't think that this was real, but once I realized that it was, I was aware that it was definitely an attack to dismantle and address our economic freedom as people of color. But I knew the moment it happened that we would continue to do the amazing work that we do.
You didn't think it was real. What did you think it was? What did you think?
When the emails came through, I honestly thought it was ChatGPT.
You did?
Yes.
You thought maybe you were being punked somehow.
Yes.
So now that you know that it is real, what's your response? What are you all planning to do?
Oh, our response is simple. We plan to continue to do the work that we do for women of color. As you stated before, women of color are the most founded entrepreneurial demographic. They are just the least funded.
So let's pause right there. The Fearless Fund is a venture capital fund that is available for women of color to get funding for their businesses, whether it's venture capital or grants. And they actually have a grant that is coming up due and that has a rolling application process. It is the Fearless Fund. So they have been, if you haven't been living under a rock, recently there was a lawsuit that was won as it pertains to affirmative action in college admissions. So now that same group, now that they've won, they're going after funding opportunities that are specifically for people of color. I don't know of any other lawsuits that they have going on right now, but the Fearless Fund, their grant program, their venture capital fund is for women of color, not just Black women, but all women of color. So they are coming after that. They're saying, hey, this is discriminatory. This isn't right. This should be open to all people of all colors and all races. So will this be the end of funding for my specific funds that target small business owners who are women or Black or women of color? I don't think so, but I will share more about my perspective a little bit later. Let's continue to watch together.
Why do you think that is? I mean, when I read the number, Ariane, I thought I was reading it wrong because the number was so low. Less than 1%.
Yes, a fraction of a percent.
Yes.
I think even beyond racism and sexism, there is something called proximity. The investors in the venture capital field, 92% of them are white male. I'm a strong believer that if we can diversify the investors, we can diversify the investments.
Now, we mentioned that number.
I think that's important. So what she was talking about was networking, proximity. Most of venture capital funding is available for Caucasian men. So they were asking her about the disparities. Well, why do you think only Caucasian men are being funded, or that, women of color are only getting 0.03% of the funding, the venture capital funding that is available? And she mentioned proximity. So that's all about networking. Who do you know? A lot of these, a lot of venture capitalists operate in the same circles. They're going to the same networking events. They're going to the same conferences. They're playing golf together. They're going on vacation together. So therefore, if I know you and I know if you're my neighbor and I know that you're having a lemonade stand and there's a lemonade stand that is 100 miles away, am I more likely to give you lemonade, or am I more likely to buy your lemonade because it's next door? Of course. So when she says proximity, she's saying because these venture capitalists are running in the same circles and the same networks, the money continues to circulate throughout the Caucasian male demographic rather than trickling down to women, men of color, minorities, things of that nature. Let's continue watching.
0.39%. And some may listen and say, well, that's something. But according to the fund in 2022, capital firms deployed $288 billion.
$288 billion. A lot of us can't even formulate in our minds how much money that is. But yes, investors are investing. You may be hearing, that there's a recession and things are going downhill. No. For some, not for others.
So that fraction of 1%, it doesn't make sense when it comes to black women being funded. I never really understood how someone who had a head start in the race would look at those behind them and try to trip them up. What is your message to those that are looking to trip you up?
Oh, our message is clear. Our corporate partners stand by us. MasterCard, Bank of America, Ally Bank, JP Morgan Chase, and many others.
What have you heard from them?
Oh, we've been in touch with all of our investors. They stand by their DEI programs. They stand by their commitments that they've made post George Floyd to the black community.
That's a big statement that she just made. She said that these corporations are standing behind the programs that they have created for minority founders and their support of minority entrepreneurs, especially their commitment after George Floyd. So if you are not familiar with George Floyd, I'm not going to get into that. Most of America remembers the incident that occurred with George Floyd. After that incident, I compare that incident to children in the 1960s. There was a video that was recorded, and if I can find this while my husband is editing my video, because that's my editor, if I can find this video, but there were children who were sprayed by water hoses and had dogs sick on them during the 1960s, and that one video was televised across the country. I believe it might have been televised about around the world, but don't quote me on that. That one video sparked change to bring about the Civil Rights Act. Okay. So it had a huge impact. It was no longer whisperings and grievances that the black community was just dissatisfied with their state or status. This showed clear prejudice. It showed clear racism and the torture that African Americans were going through. Now, when she mentions the corporate commitment to the African American community after George Floyd, the situation that occurred with him and the fact that it was televised, we had been protesting. We had seen so many different disparities and attacks against the black community, but oftentimes different groups feel like African Americans are just complaining. Like we're fabricating these incidents that are continuing to happen in our communities. The incident with George Floyd made everybody wake up. It made everybody see. You know what I'm saying? It was clear. There was video available. It was indisputable, right? And that brought about somewhat of a reckoning. So what corporations, how they responded wasn't, or America didn't respond by saying, okay, you guys are owed reparations for building this country. We're going to now give you reparations. What corporations did was they said, okay, we're going to give back to the black community. Let's see, how do we do that? The way they have chosen to give to black communities is through small business funding, small business grant programs. More lending opportunities are now available to small business owners. The disparity happens because here's where the disparity happens. These programs are available to you, but there is a disconnect in the corporation is providing the funding, and usually there's an intermediary who deploys the funding, and a lot of times it's not being communicated effectively or marketed to the African American community, and then therefore you don't know how to apply. So you may be a small business owner who can use $20,000 or $10,000, or your business is now in a position where you can take on a loan to grow your business, but you don't even know the programs are out there. So that's why I have come into the space to let you know money is out here. It's a lot of money out here. It's a lot of money available. And I want to help you as much as possible understand how to access it and what you need to show up with in order to qualify for it. Of course, so go ahead and like and subscribe and comment and, send this to a friend, because that is what I desire to do. I have a background in public policy with a concentration in nonprofit leadership. What all that means is I understand the funding space when it comes to small businesses, and I now have the courage to come on a platform like YouTube and share my insight. But as she mentioned, and what I'm saying is, after the George Floyd incident, funds have now been allocated to help the Black community. I don't think they're being marketed well enough. I don't think enough African American Black owned small businesses know about the funds that are available to them. But the Fearless Fund is an intermediary, and they do a wonderful job with marketing. I see them all over the place, letting people know, hey, we have these grants available. Again, they have a grant program. You can win $20,000. I will do a separate video specifically dedicated to the Fearless Fund. But these are programs that you need to know about so that businesses need funding. Okay, we have been bootstrapping it for decades, for a century. We've been bootstrapping it because of the oppression that we have faced. I'm not going to say you don't have to bootstrap it anymore, but I will say that there are programs that are available to you if you are willing to put in the work to establish a real legitimate business. If you are working towards generating revenue into your business and can show the numbers. That is the biggest issue when it comes to my one-on-one clients. And no, right now I am not taking on clients who I write grants for. I have a group of clients that I'm already working with, and that process is very time consuming. But I do have other resources. You can book a consultation call with me. You can sign up for my business funding insider newsletter. It's $24.99 a month. Those and definitely watch here on YouTube, because I plan on being a voice for you to learn about all the programs that are available. But this is, yes, many of us, we know that we want reparations. We know that we are deserving of reparations based on what our ancestors contributed to this nation. So again, the Fearless Fund, he goes on to ask her, well, what do you say to people who just say, hey, it's not fair? She goes on to say that, and you guys can watch this, I'll provide the link down below. She goes on to explain that she can't disclose everything that's going on with the lawsuit, but based on how laws are written, they are able to legally offer this. And I will bring up, my personal perspective. I don't think it's right. It's like there are so many funding opportunities that are available for everyone, but our Caucasian counterparts have had access for hundreds of years. We are starting way behind the starting line, with weights holding us down. And we are trying to progress as a community, as business owners. And I think that programs like this are necessary. So do I think that this is the beginning of the end of small business grants and funding for minority-owned businesses? Not necessarily. But I do want to make mention that prior to 2020, okay, prior to 2020, we all know what happened in 2020. A lot of YouTubers don't mention what exactly happened because they don't want their videos flagged. And I'm just starting out, y'all. I don't want my videos flagged either. But prior to 2020, again, my background is public policy with a concentration in nonprofit leadership. I have a degree in public policy. So I understand that up until 2020, grants for-profit businesses that were not considered a nonprofit 501c3 were hit or miss, and there were not as many as they are now. There was a lot of controversy around SBA and EIDL and PPP. So corporations have now said, okay, we're going to allocate a certain percentage to small businesses, and then they bring on the services of an intermediary that can deploy those funds, that will take in those applications and deploy those funds. But prior to 2020, it just wasn't that common to see grants for small business owners. It was common for grants for the nonprofit sector, but not so for the for-profit sector. Now that all of these grants are available, I mean, grants are coming out every single month for for-profit businesses, right? It's a new concept. A lot of the grants, because of the George Floyd situation, are for Black owned businesses, Black women owned businesses. Majority are for that demographic of small business owners. So will this lawsuit affect the money? Will this lawsuit hinder corporations from making funds available to minority-owned small businesses? That is questionable. Of course, Arian, the founder and CEO, co-founder and CEO of Fearless Fund, is saying, hey, they are committed. And I believe that in their conversation, they are committed. They have already allocated certain funds, but I personally believe that it will depend upon what their stockholders are saying and what position their stockholders have on the matter. I personally feel like it will depend on politics. It will depend on pushback. It will depend on if they are attacked or if it causes a decline in revenue because they are giving to programs like these. It can go either way. You know, if this does not continue to be national news, if this blows over, then I believe that the corporations will, for some time, I don't think forever. I personally do not feel like it's forever. Every day, corporations are changing their CEOs, their CIOs. A lot is going on in the corporate sector as it pertains to real estate. Will this be forever that they offer or allocate huge millions and sometimes billions of dollars to small minority-owned small businesses? I personally, based on my experience, I don't think it will last forever. Will it be ending immediately? No. Some of these corporations have made 10-year commitments, 20-year commitments to minority-owned small businesses. Money has already been allocated, and therefore that money has to be spent in that way. But these are for-profit businesses. If they are getting a tax deduction because they are giving to for-profit small businesses, if they have placed this money, and that's why they use intermediaries, because they're then giving the money to the intermediary, which is usually a nonprofit organization, who will deploy the funds. And now, because they've put the money in the hands of these nonprofits, they now get a substantial tax deduction, right? So it's going to depend on where the money flows. Corporations are for profit. They are all about profit. That is, that's what makes their world go round. So can this shift? It can shift. Will it be shifting immediately where funding from a grant perspective is no longer available? I do not feel that it will be immediate. But in summation, you need to position your small business to be able to not just apply, but win the grants. There's a difference between applying and winning. And yes, these corporations, they're intermediary. They are looking for specific things as it pertains to your business. I will continue to do videos about what those things are. Again, the best way to find out what it is that I'm talking about is through that Business Insider newsletter, because it's not just like a money grab. I do have to make an income, but it's a platform that allows me to share more information, really dig in on what is available to you and how to go after it and get it. So I hope that this information was helpful. Again, if you want to continue watching this video and see what all is said, I will put the link in the description below. Thanks for watching.